Just trying to get that live feed to go. There it goes. Good morning. I'm Judge Person, and I'm waiting as folks are connecting, and I do appreciate everybody's time. We'll have a brief morning, but I do want to give due regard for each person's matter. And again, as people's audio is connecting, I'm Judge Person, and I do welcome everybody to the Temple Municipal Court. Do want to make just a couple of orientation announcements and also just find out who's here. There's a gentleman with like an orange vest on, and if I could just get your name, that would be great.
Stephen Avila.
Okay, hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good. Your attorney is not yet here. Have you been in touch with the attorney?
Yes. He just texted me saying that the court was today.
Yes.
So from what I know, two minutes ago, he should be joining.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for him. No problem at all.
I know we had this problem last month.
We did. But it sounds like y'all are in touch, so that's good. And it may just be, attorneys are all over the place. So we'll give him a few minutes. It's not a big deal that he's not right at the moment. Okay. But I haven't heard from him, so I assume that he'll be here because that's generally what I would expect is they're here unless, they've asked not to be excused, and we didn't receive anything like that. So it should be good. So I just want to make some quick announcements. I know that sometimes people have heard this before, but I do want to let you know that when you're given a ticket or a citation, that's an accusation. A plea, when you give a plea, is an answer or response to that accusation. There are three options for pleading: guilty, not guilty, and no contest. And we're, of course, presumed not guilty. If you plead guilty, you're admitting an offense. If you plead no contest, you're not admitting it or denying it. You're just saying, I'm not contesting it and moving forward with sentencing. So guilty or no contest moves that case into sentencing. Not guilty moves that case toward trial. And when the cases today that are set are all heading toward the trial process. That doesn't mean they might not get resolved another way. They could, but I presume that they're not, because that affords the most protection under the law. And that's, of course, appropriate when we are maintaining a not guilty position. So that shifts the burden of proof onto the state when we do that. So after today, the next setting will be here in the court. That setting is not a long setting, but it'll be on a Thursday, I believe, in the morning. And we'll come to court, and there's some things that you need to know prior to trial. And we'll talk about those. It's more appropriate to have that face-to-face conversation at that point, because there are certain constitutional provisions that I think should be handled in live court. I do want to let you know that there are 4 ways to gain a dismissal in a court like this one, where a person has pleaded guilty or no contest. They can be eligible for a dismissal on compliance cases. I'll describe that in a moment. Driver safety available situations. Again, I'll describe that in a moment. If they are approved for a deferred disposition, or if they are qualified for teen court. Now, compliance dismissals are things that the law says can be brought up to date and dismissed. I don't see any of those on our docket today, but if you had something like that and you pleaded guilty or no contest, what you can expect from me as the judge is that I would be looking for that dismissal. And you would be welcome to ask about it as well, because you're representing yourself. But if you have something like that, I'm normally just alerting you and seeing if we can get you into that dismissal. The second option, the driver safety course option, is for certain license holders, namely Texas license holders or active military or their dependents. And if you qualify for that program, you pay a lesser fee and you do the course and you do get your driving record in. You've got a timetable for that, and you wind up getting your ticket dismissed. And the rest of the fees that you didn't pay up front get waived if you complete that process. So that's a way to save money and keep it off your record. And that's available for certain license holders, certain offenses, and Texas generally license holders and active military or dependents. So if you have a moving violation and you plead guilty or no contest, I automatically start seeing if we can plug you into that program. That doesn't mean people want to do it. And you can always say, I really don't want to do that. But I presume that people might be interested in learning how to get a dismissal, how to save money and keep something off the record. So on a plea of guilty or no contest, I start looking for that to see if you're eligible. And then if you are and you want to do it, then we start figuring out how we're going to get that done, because it has specific details to the program. And then a deferred disposition, the third thing I mentioned, is like a probation or delay period. And during that time, if you are basically on good behavior, not reoffending or getting more offenses, we have to sort out the fines and costs. Sometimes there's a class or a record or something of that nature that needs to be turned in. And if we get those things done, then your case gets dismissed. That one, the way that that works is that you have to request it at the time that you enter the plea of guilty or no contest, and the judge has to approve it. You may also talk to the prosecutor about that. The prosecutor's going to maybe take a position. Sometimes they're in favor of it, sometimes they're against it, and I do not control that. They have the right to take a position for or against that deferral. But if you and the prosecutor agree and you'll bring that agreement to me, I'm usually going to go with your agreement because both parties are agreeing. So why would I interrupt that? So I generally follow those. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I'm going to tell you that's pretty certain. And I will always consider it if y'all are asking for that. If you ask me on a plea of guilty or no contest, and again, I always will give it my due consideration. So the hallmark of the deferral in a Class C court like this one is that you must request it. And those first two that I talked about, the compliance and the driving safety program, I'm looking for that with you. If you plead guilty or no contest, in the deferred, you have to make a request of the judge. Guilty or no contest, I'd like a deferred. Are you and the prosecutor saying we've come to terms of agreement on a deferred? And then I'm telling you yes or no. So that's how that one works. And then the final one is a teen court option for high school students, which I don't think we have any students in high school here today. But if you are and I missed it, let me know and we'll talk about it. It looks like a deferred somewhat, but there's some differences. And I'll address that if we have someone eligible. Okay, so that's kind of the 101. The next thing too is if we have paperwork today, generally speaking, we're going to have paperwork today. We'll need to figure out how we're getting it signed. And I don't take like DocuSign, but I can send things to you and have you print them and sign them and send them back to us. Or you can come by the court if you're in a local position, and we can make copies for you at that point as well. So I will work with you on that, but you might just have that in the back of your mind, because if we're not settling the case, we're coming into court, we need to get an agreed date. If you are settling the case, then there'll be documents for us to look at. So generally speaking, there's going to be paperwork. Also, if you need an excuse for work or school, you can talk to us. We can send something to your email, or you can come by to get it. Okay, so that's kind of the 101, and let's move on forward. I actually have Yolanda Davis as the first person who logged in. And so, Ms. Davis, can you unmute and we can make sure your audio is working? Hi, how are you? Okay, I can't hear you. And I'm turned all the way up. So check yours. You are unmuted, so I don't know what the issue is. How's that going? I see that you're trying. I can kind of read your lips a little bit. Um, so sometimes what I tell people is you'll need to maybe log something's not working on your side of it. You might try hanging up and logging back in, and I'll just take you next after that. That's the only thing I can think of to do. Did you go onto Zoom first and make sure that everything was working? Yes, no? Okay. Well, I would suggest hanging up and just trying back in. We're gonna wait for you. I'm gonna move to the next person, but then I'll take you right after that. Okay. All right. Um, just yeah, relink. Okay. Um, and Mr. Matson, let me get Mr. Mason in. He just logged in. His client was here second, and so I want to get y'all moving. Let's get his audio connected. Hi, Mr. Mason. If you're able to unmute and if you're able to get on screen, that would be great.
Oh,
How are you?
yes, I am.
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, perfect.
Good morning.
Morning.
Actually, your client was here and it was his turn, and your timing is perfect. So I'm going to move you over to that meeting, that pre-trial with Mr. Matson. And I normally would move your client over with you. Is that all right with you?
Actually, I'd rather just me and Mr. Matson. I can report back to him afterwards.
Okay, that's normal as well. Let me move you over with Mr. Matson to that breakout room.
Okay, sounds.
Thank you. And Mr. Avila, that is a normal thing. So, and y'all may have already talked about that. So, I'm hoping Ms. Davis logs back in because she seems like she's trying. I'm also wanting to ask Chris Higginbotham, is your video working? Perfect. Thank you. We'll be with you very shortly too. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for asking. Yeah, we'll be with you shortly.
Okay.
All right. I wonder what happened with the young lady. Maybe she'll, if not, I'll call her, see what we can do. There she is. Let's see what happened. There we go. I think I can hear you, Miss Davis.
Okay, you can?
Yes. Great.
Okay, great.
Great. You'll be next.
Okay,
I'm gonna remute you, but we'll be back with you shortly.
okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Glad it worked out. And folks, I'm just gonna look at paperwork while we're sitting here. Okay. Okay. Mr. Mason, Mr. Matson, where are we, gentlemen?
Your Honor, I've
Judge,
extended an offer to Mr. Mason. He's going to talk it over with his client. So if we could get a reset date.
Certainly. Do y'all
I'll
want to
accept
reset?
that.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over either one of you. Do we want to reschedule for Zoom or do we want to come on in the courtroom?
I will leave that up to Mr. Mason.
Okay.
I think Zoom would be better. So I know my client's a trucker, so
Yes,
accommodate him easier.
certainly. And of course, he doesn't have to be present, but I don't mind accommodating that at all. December 12th is my next Zoom. Will that work for you both?
I can work with that.
Works for
Okay.
me, Your Honor.
What time would that be?
9.
All right.
Okay, we'll send that link to you, Mr. Mason, and then you can make it available to your client, I believe. And your client had just asked me if he needed to remain, and I told him that was up to you. But as far as I'm concerned, y'all are both excused with the thanks of the court, unless there's anything else that we need to address at this time.
All right. Sounds good to me. Thank you,
Okay.
Judge.
Yes, thank you, sir. Mr. Avila, I think you and your attorney can get together and sort it out, but you are not required to be here at this time. Thank you. And Mr. Mason, you're good to withdraw.
All right. Y'all have a good day.
And you too,
Thank
sir. Okay, Mr. Matson, Ms. Davis was able to solve the problem and her audio was working just fine a second ago. And I think it's probably good. We're going to double check. Here we go. Okay, I'll move you over to that meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I handed you the whole thing. I handed you everybody's file. Oops. And Mr. Higginbotham, I'll be with you shortly. Don't worry.
You're good.
Oh yeah, I was in. Okay. Let's see where we are on the Davis case. Let me get Miss Davis back to audio. Okay, I think I can, okay, there we go. Where are we? Let's start with Mr. Matson for an update.
Your Honor, Ms. Davis has indicated she would like a trial, so if we could get an in-person date for setting that, that'd be great.
Okay, so our next pretrial is going to be a live pretrial here in the courtroom on December 14th at 9 o'clock. Does either party have any objection to that?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Davis?
No. No, ma'am.
Okay, and that won't be trial. That's just to do some matters before we get to the trial point, but it is required. Okay,
Okay.
okay. Do you have any further questions before I let you go today?
No, that'll be it. December 14th, 9 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am, and we'll send that to your email if that's all right.
Okay.
Is the email that we used for today, does that work still?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. And Mr. Matson, your next person, I'm sorry, is Mr. Higginbotham. And Mr. Higginbotham, can you unmute?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll move you over to that meeting.
Okay.
Your Honor, before you do that, I actually don't even think that Mr. Hickenbotham and I need to meet.
Okay,
We had already previously discussed his case a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, I think.
okay,
And after reviewing the evidence of his citation, I don't think that it was properly issued.
okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and just file a motion to dismiss, and I can send that over sometime this morning.
On the speeding charge?
Yes.
Okay. The insurance charge is already has a plea. And just a reminder, with 15 hours of community service due December 28th. And as far as the speeding, if you send that over, prosecutor, I will sign.
I'll have that to you sometime this morning, Your Honor.
Okay, that will be fine. And then, sir, what I will do is email that to you, the signed dismissal. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And do you have any questions about that or your community service?
Where do I go for the community service?
So we would have sent a list of, oh, we're sending it to you, a list of places. And there's one form for you to sign, and then kind of a packet that will walk you through, there'll be a timesheet to keep track of your hours, a list of rules, a list of places for you to choose from. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then just the one thing is, if you need more time than your due date, you're going to need to turn in what you've got on your due date
Mhm.
and drop me a letter letting me know how much time you need. And usually I'll just keep working with you. Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
But you don't want to go to warrant. So you'll have a
Yeah.
deadline, and that deadline is a due date. Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to swing by the court this afternoon and pick that up along with your dismissal?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. What time would work for you?
Probably around like 1.
That'll be great.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You have a good day.
All right. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.